Alright, welcome. This is episode number 1 of For Beginners series that I will be making. Series, not Siri, that's me. I'm Mr. Siri, Drunk Rasco, bringing you the best Hardened Scales content on the web. Hopefully. And here I will be playing basically what I would consider sort of like the most stock list you could be playing right now. And the goal with this whole series is to basically I will talk about every single interaction. There will be a long video, basically it will be one game per video, one match per video. I will try to explain every single thing I am doing with as much detail as possible. So I could misplay, but that's okay. I could be not playing around something of the opponent and I could time out, but that's okay. You know, the only reason I'm playing these games is for you, newer Hardened Scales player, to understand what your cards do, and then you can start worrying what the other person's cards do. Right? So I'm gonna go briefly over the deck list. Or not so briefly, I'm just gonna talk about the deck list. We're playing mono green. This is the simplest of the decks, and I think everybody should start here. It has an insurance against Blood Moon. It's better against Path to Exile and against Field of Ruin. Overall, it's also a bit simpler to play because you don't have to balance two colors. Less things can go wrong. Anyway, this list is like as stock as it gets. It's 22 lines. It plays 8 forests or 8 basic forests of your choice. You can choose any kind of forest you want. They all do the same. Yeah, so 8 forests as our basic lands. They're nice because they cannot be Field of Ruin. Darcel Citadel, 4 Darcel Citadels. Could play Blink of Nexus if you want to. I just like Darcel Citadel. It's a bit more simple and it has some good synergy with the other artifacts in the deck, like basically like Arcbound Ravager. Then 4 Inmost Nexus, that's one of our winning conditions. You can watch my video on the basics of Hardened Scales. I actually recommend watching the video before you start watching this, but I'll talk about all what the cards do. So basically Inmost Nexus just allows us to kill very quickly because we can put 9 counters on it, and 9 counters plus the 1/1 that's the Inmost Nexus equals 10 poison on your opponent, and the opponent equals a dead opponent. I'm going back to the Mexican card, by the way. Tulano Reborn, in general, a card people don't know what they do, what it does, other than Hardened Scales player, and what it does is enter stat, but it has Graft 1, and what Graft 1 means is it enters, it's a land that enters with a 1/1 counter on it. And then when a creature enters the battlefield, both yours and your opponent's creatures, it will trigger, and when that triggers, then if that trigger is off, then you can choose to move the counter over those. Pretty strong card in combination with other counters matters cards like everything else. Turning Pidlands, basically a forest in the first turns, and then it can be turned into a card later on. Not necessary. You can play 2 more forests if you don't have those, which is not a problem. Inmost Nexus, I would say it's kind of necessary because it's one of our win conditions. But Turning Pidland, if you don't have the money, or you don't have the time, or you don't have them, or I'm not sure you want to buy into Hardened Scales, just play 2 more extra forests. It really makes a small difference, but sometimes it can allow you to find this extra card that can win you the game. Pendelhaven, I would recommend playing it. It works really well with all our 1/1s, you know, with the Servos Formulation module, even with Inmost Nexus, with Avant Worker. We have a lot of 1/1s. Actually, Silver Seal is also 1/1. Ballista and Hangerbag are also 1/1s if you play the 4x equals 2. So, in general, a great card. You know, it's basically a forest that does something extra. It's always nice. And this X is quite relevant in our deck. Finally, Phyrexian Score, also not a core card, but actually, but it comes up sometimes against a Stony Silence kind of effect, so effects that prevent you from utilizing artifact abilities. Then you can use this card to sacrifice a creature and gain a life, an artifact, gain some life, and basically trigger the death trigger abilities that we have, like Modular, basically, or like the Hangerbag Walker ability. 2 animation modules, I'm only playing 2. They're body multiples, and I think the format is a bit in a way, and somewhere where it's maybe not needed to play all 3, but it could be the 2 is needed. We're not trying here to find the perfect list. I'm just trying to find a list that has a good mix of all spells, so we get to see all the interaction. It's not a card you want maybe in your opening hand necessarily, but it's a card that really gets to shine turn 4, 5, and onwards. Armand Worker has Modular 1, it's all it has, so basically enters with a 1/1 counter on, and when it dies, then you can move that counter wherever you want. Of course, works really well with Arcbound Ravager, with Hardened Scales, with Ozolith. The Ozolith, the newest addition to the deck, basically provides our ability to basically anytime a creature that you control leaves the battlefield, not dies, then the counters will be moved onto the Ozolith. And then at the beginning of your combat, your turn, you can move those counters onto one of your creatures. Really strong effect. Basically working as a pseudo Hardened Scales that also ensures against sweepers, removal, etc. Ancient Stirrings, I'm playing 4 here. I said in another video I'll probably playing 3 probably in the future, but I think it's a good card to get a lot of reps in because it's sometimes tricky what to find on them. Like a lot of people I think tend to not value lands enough even in the mid to late game with the Ancient Stirrings sometimes. And sometimes it's a good card to find you a threat or one of your sideboard pieces. Hardened Scales, the namesake of the deck, basically adds an extra counter whenever you add a counter, and the combination of Hardened Scales and Ravager is kind of the backbone of the deck, just allowing you to do the most broken stuff, you know, that Modern is known for doing. So this is basically the reason this deck is playable in Modern. If this was just a value counters deck, you know, it could compete, but the ability to kill turn 4 is really, really relevant. And actually, since this is I just forgot about it. I'm gonna add one welding jar. I'm going to be playing a competitive league, so I don't think I'm going to play some random match. Anyway, one welding jar allows for regenerate. In this way, I can actually explain what it does if it comes up. Basically, generates a target artifact. Around Ravager, the backbone of the deck, the modular creature has both modular itself and it can put counters on itself by sacrificing other creatures. Really, really strong. Metallic Mimic has good synergy with constructs, so you can play for X equals 0. I'll explain that when it comes up. Has good synergy with animation model, allowing you to put counters on your servers. Has good synergy with Hangout Walker, allowing you to make doctors that have counters on. Silver Seer, not the strongest card in the deck, but really strong turn 1, so turn 2 if you are on the play. This card can actually make it so you can it can allow you to basically run away with the game by just putting counters every turn to all your cards. I'm only playing 1, and some play 2, but I think it's not a card you want lots of. It's a card you just want to kind of have the potential to draw it turn 1. Turn of Get, another sacrificial outlet. Proliferate comes up a lot. Proliferate can proliferate, of course, all your artifacts. Proliferate your lands. It can proliferate poison counters on your opponent. It can proliferate upon ether vials. It can do a lot of things. Alright, it also works as a sacrifice outlet, basically allowing you to sacrifice things to move the counters around, to make doctors, etc. Ravager Combiner, one of the newest additions to the deck. It was printed in Modern Horizons around a year ago. Normally I play Crystalline Giant, but this card is more standard, so we're going to be playing this. Ravager Combiner, what it does is a modular 2, so it's not modular 1. It has the same ability as both Worker and Ravager. When it dies, you can move the counters that it has on. And it actually has an ability sort of similar to a combination of Turn of Get and Silver Seer that you can turn it, sacrifice an artifact, and look for an artifact yourself, like Metallic Mimic, Silver Seer. Sorry, it has to be a construct. So it has to be Worker, Silver Seer, Hangout Walker, or Walking Ballista. Normally it will be Walking Ballista. Finally, Hangout Walker and Walking Ballista, both finishers and enablers of the strategy. You will not see, if you play Pioneer before, you will see sometimes people not playing Hangout Walker or not playing, or cutting one for the other after sideboard. In Modern, you want to be playing both because it's not only the winning condition, but it's also the enablers a lot of times. Finally, onto the sideboard, 3 Dismembers, 3 Nature's Claims. People are playing Gembrazer nowadays, but I think Nature's Claims is more standard, and you know, it's a bit more complicated than Gembrazer, so I'm going to hold on to it for now, and maybe it just becomes so standard it makes sense to just have it in here. 2 Ghosts of Summer for the black and blue matches, 2 Graphic Escapes and 2 Relics of Oppression. This is probably not the sideboard I would be buying right now if I had to play like a league to win. But this is a sideboard I would consider, like, if you had no, like, you don't know, you want 15 cards in your sideboard, the first 15 cards you want to buy for your sideboard, this would be them, right? So Veil of Summer, Graphic Escapes, Relic of Opportunities for all the graveyard matchups. Basically, it's quite a lot of graveyard X in Modern. And these potential strings give you a kind of good matchup against them. If you don't have Ancient Strings or you don't have enough of those, you get more tricky. 2 Damping Spheres against Tron. You could be playing 3 Damping Spheres against Tron or against Alnasium, but I prefer to play 1 Torpor Orb against humans and against goblins. These decks are they're quite strong and they are quite popular, so playing Torpor Orb can actually really slow them down. And I normally would play 2, but again, just because I think this would be more general list that you could just pick up and bring into any FNM, I would be playing this. If you want to, you know, make it more specific to a specific meta, then you need to watch out videos where I will probably explain that. But basically, if there are more creatures, you may want to go up in these members. If there's a lot of Jaunt or Death Shadow, you want to go maybe add more Veils. If you see a lot of big mana, more Damping Spheres. Torpor Orb also for the giant matchups, like the Amulet Titan matchup. There's not a lot of Amulet Titan right now. Maybe 1 Torpor Orb is enough. But in those matches, you really need something to slow them down. Anyway, that is the deck list. I hope it makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of videos where I talk about deck lists, so I hope, and there will be videos where I'll talk about every single card. So this is just kind of a refresher if you're here for that. And yeah, I will see you in the matches. All right, welcome to match 1. We are playing a beginner's version of Hardened Scales. We're trying to be, explaining absolutely everything that's going on, not worrying so much about our opponents. And the first decision you need to make every game is your mulligan decision. You realize here, this hand looks all right. This hand looks all right, but it's missing a threat. It's missing something to do with all these enablers. But you have 3 lands, which is really good. You have animation model for like grindier matchups, and you can have ancient strings that can find you one of those threats. And you also have the draw, so it means that you will draw 1 additional. So since, it's not a hard rule with mulligans, at least I don't have them, and some people do, but this basically has all the enablers that you may be needing, a way to find threats, and it has actually time to find the threats. You can have 2 draw steps, basically, to find those threats. So I'll keep this and see how that works. Probably keep the Ozolith. Probably start with the Ozolith. The reason we're going to start with the Ozolith is if we draw that threat next turn, we can play. And as I said, or we can play Throne of God afterward. You could also play things. Looks like we may be playing against Burn. That doesn't really matter. So we're going to try to do our thing. So this is red. Let's see what we're playing against. Okay, that seems to be Burn or Prowess. Most likely Burn. Okay. How does that change our plans? Not massively, not massively. We can play both Worker, so we could play the animation model or the Ozolith here. These are kind of the 2 plays. I wouldn't play the Ancient Strings turn 1 unless you really have nothing else to do, because this doesn't change how the battlefield looks like a lot at all. This sets you up at least for a stronger turn 2. So we're gonna start with the Ozolith. And of all these cards, I'll probably start with the Forest, just in case we drew Hardened Scales and we want to play Hardened Scales and Ancient Strings. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to play the Forest and play the Ozolith. Of course, we're going to draw against Burn, and that's generally not a good thing, but that's okay. They mulligan as well. So now, basically, you can see we have a lot of options for our next turn. We'll have 2 mana available and quite a lot of spells to cast. That's a Soulscar Mage, another Soulscar Mage. And they will hit us for 1 with the Suicide. So what we're gonna do here, there's 2 things we can do, and I really like. So I'm gonna show you a bit of a more advanced, if you wish, technique, but that's just fine. You'll learn this eventually. We're gonna play Dark Citadel. We're holding on the Nurturing Pidland because it deals damage to us. I don't want to kill. We're gonna play Dark Citadel, and I'm gonna play the Hangabag Walker. The reason I'm playing the Hangabag Walker is because Ballista is probably a better finisher, and if we can play Ballista for 2, we can actually kill one of those guys. But right now I can't. When Hangabag Walker dies, if they bolt it, then there will be some kind of counters going into the Ozolith, and we also will get a top their out. So we're just gonna play this. I'll show you as it comes. Hopefully it will come as we play the Hangabag Walker. So now, if they decide to bolt the Hangabag Walker, which is a common occurrence, then we'll have -1/-1 counters put on the Ozolith. Jesus, this is quite the hand by our opponent. We're playing against Prowess mostly. It seems that they're not interested in... I'm not gonna block this because... Yeah. The reason I'm not blocking them is because... Oh, it's actually you are. So the reason I'm not blocking here is that we would like to actually have this Hangabag Walker up so we can generate more blockers next. So... Okay. I like this Phyrexia score more than playing the Northern Pidland for the reasons I've been talking about. We can do 2 things here. We can play the animation module and the Throne of Geth, which doesn't seem too appealing. Or we can play the Throne of Geth. We could play Throne of Geth, block, and pump this guy, so I think that's actually kind of nice. So I'm gonna play Throne of Geth. So Throne of Geth, what he can do, right? He can sacrifice an artifact and he can sacrifice that Citadel to put a 1/1 counter here, basically. And this will allow us to make a Hangavak big enough that he can actually block them. So now I'm gonna pass the turn. Not attack, I'm gonna try to block. They have only one card in hand. They basically have a bunch of 1/1s, but they can deal a lot of damage. Cards in hand. I'm not aligned, so let's see what they play. They play a lot at this stage. What a strong card. Okay, so I'm not find anything they can. Here I need to start blocking, so I'm gonna block one of the Soulscar mages. Okay. Then here, what do you do? So the idea here, what always you can do with the Hangover, you can respond before damage when you block. So you can tap the Hangover Walker paying 1 and make it a 2/2, and then we can actually sacrifice this Darksteel Citadel to proliferate this and make it a 3/3. So we will kill this and we'll still have a Hangover Walker and we'll take 6 damage. So now we still have our Hangover Walker, which could be very important. See what we draw. Draw a Ravager. Ravager is interesting. Sure. Okay, so here most likely want to play the Ballista. So they have 0 cards in hand, right? So the only cards they could be playing is these two, and Stormwing Entity, it can only be played for 2 when they cast a sorcery or instant. So probably like to play the Ballista and make a bunch of top. So I will tap this last, so I'm going to play the Ballista first. So now they will draw a card. Let's see what that card is. They can cast this guy. Cast it, fine. They go to combat. So in combat, when they attack, they're basically gonna attack with everything, but don't attack with this. Quite interesting. So they're afraid. They are afraid. I'm gonna go ahead and pump here. And then I'm gonna sacrifice this the Hangover Walker. The reason I'm doing this basically is that I want to block here, so we take 1 point less damage in the end, which is the same, but this will also generate a lot of counters that we can use in the future, right? So this is 4, this creates 4 counters, we proliferate, so we can proliferate the Ozolith, we can proliferate creatures and artifacts and lands, everything. So we'll say yes to this. And they just concede. Interestingly, they just concede. I mean, of course, next turn we could just move the counters here and clean house and go for it. All right, so this was game 1. I hope I made good enough ability, like I've been good enough at explaining what I've been doing. But basically, let's not worry about the matchup. Let's kind of gather our thoughts. We did not play the Ancient Stirrings because we were more worried about going into the battlefield. And what we did is we tried to block the most damaging creatures. And things that we did that were a bit special is Throne of Geth allowing us to sacrifice to proliferate. And I was trying to bait them to bolt one of the Hangabog Walker, because in that case there would be 2 -1/-1 counters that will go onto the Ozolith, but they can be used to destroy one of the creatures. Anyway, I hope I made that makes sense. If you don't understand any of what I said, just please comment down below and I will try to do my best to answer. On to the sideboard. Okay, so sideboarding, we're playing against Prowess. Prowess has two things going on for themselves. They are playing small creatures that grow big when they cast a lot of spells, and they also have these flying creatures. So they play the Sprite Dragon and the Stormwing Entity that are both very strong. They have prowess, both of them, or some kind of prowess. So both of them very strong creatures. So let's see what we want to play against them. And one of the cards I'm thinking that it doesn't make a lot of sense to play against them is a Steel Overseer. Steel Overseer is a 1/1 for 2, and they play Lava Dart. When anytime somebody can Lava Dart one of your creatures, that's pretty bad. When you're sideboarding, you actually do need to think about your opponent. So I actually like to think first what I put in. So I always like, this memory is really great. It doesn't look like it, but this memory is really great against this deck because they really need the creatures to kill you. Damping Sphere can be good because it stops their ability to chain a lot of spells together. But I don't love it. But we can try it. And Relic Opportunities can be really good at stopping Lava Darts or forcing them out of time. But I don't think I'll be playing it. So cards I don't think are really good. Steel Overseer is probably not great. I'm going to be cutting the slowest cards, basically. So the cards that take a long time to come online. Caviar Combiner. And I think the same could be said with Animation Model. Animation Model, I mean, most of the creatures fly anyway. So Animation Model just doesn't do it for me. So this is the configuration I'll be going for. Don't worry too much about the sideboard. Just follow my sideboard guide that is somewhere. I will be in the description. You can watch it. You can read it there and kind of figure out what you want to sideboard on. This is not exactly the same deck list I've been running, and I'm not played Damping Sphere before, but I think as a newer player, it's probably a good idea to put the Damping Sphere in those matchups. All right, so what do we have here? Actually, we have quite strong hands, but with a lot of lands. We're on the draw. So I guess the play here will be to play Hardened Scales first, then play the Worker, and then just have a blocker that we can move the counters over to the Inmoth. They keep 7. And I think this hand is good enough to keep. We have Inmoth Nexus. Inmoth Nexus is very strong. We can finish the game quite fair. We have Hardened Scales, so any 2-drop is a good draw. So we're gonna keep. Of course, sometimes when you play these fast matchups, it pays off to mulligan a lot, but I tend to err on the side of not mulliganing so much. So they're probably holding up a Bolt or something. That's really good for us that they didn't play this. Okay, that's a second Scales. Really nice. Next turn, if they still don't play any creature, which they will be playing, I would think that they will be playing a Sprite Dragon. Okay, I will not talk about their play so much. Manamorphose. So anyway, what I'm thinking here is, do I want to play Llanowar Reborn on a second Hardened Scales, or I want to play the Worker next turn? So they play this guy. Allows them to scry 2, very strong ability. Push one card on the top and one bottom. Remember, this is a fantastic draw because it allows us to kill the Stormwing Entity, and we're gonna do it right now. The reason we're doing it right now is because if they cast 2 spells, they can actually, or 3 spells, they can make this, they can put this out of this member range, and it's a disaster if they're able to do that. Right? So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna probably play the Inmoth Nexus. I'm not thinking, should I play the Hardened Scales? Seems more a better investment to play the second Hardened Scales, because then any creature that we play after that, it will have more counters, right? So we're playing the Hardened Scales here. Then we're playing the Inmoth Nexus, and then we're tapping and dismembering. We're dismembering in our main phase. We don't care. We basically get rid of one of the strongest threats. It causes 4 life, but anyway, we're going to be taking at least 3 damage next turn. So they opt now. They haven't played another line, that's okay. So my idea still is, I'm going to play this Avant Worker. Oh, maybe not. Seeing this is actually quite powerful, I'm going to be playing the Llanowar Reborn tapped and the Walking Ballista. And if we draw Ravager the turn after, because the reason I'm playing Llanowar Reborn first is because then you can graft onto the Walking Ballista when it comes in. And it will end up having 6 counters, which is really hard for them to deal with. It means that they need to employ 2 bolts, and they don't play that many bolts. So we're going to do that. And if we drew Ravager next turn, we could set up a kill with the Immortal Nexus. So we're going to play the Walking Ballista for x equals 1. I always recommend you say x equals 1. So now there's a graph trigger. It resolves from my side and resolves in total. So we have a 6/6 Walking Ballista. That's quite the threat for them to deal with. They could have a Braid, but it will still cost them 1 card and 6 points of damage. So they have the Braid. Okay, that's fine. So we're just gonna shoot them down for 6. I'm gonna play the Worker and play around the Braid, but they don't always have it. And I think this is the most powerful play. So still we're in a decent position with the Worker and Immortal Nexus and everything, so only Manamorphose again. It's really great to have killed the Stormwing entity, because Manamorphose is really strong with them, right? It allows them to keep playing spells. So maybe now they will just... Oh, they just miss. Attack with 1. Maybe they have another Aberrate. Okay, that's another Immortal Nexus. So I'm gonna... One thing is, when you play a new Immortal Nexus, the new one will always go on top, right? So I'm gonna play Worker here. And I think I'm gonna attack with one of the Immortal Nexus actually. So I can still put the counters on the other Immortal if they decide to. They could also bolt it or something, but that's almost fine. That means that they're not getting a... We have a lot of Immortal Nexus, right? So that's a spell they're not using to kill us, basically. And that's a spell they're not using in their turn. That's a bolt on the Worker. Oh, man, most likely they have something for this. But that means that they run out of cards. That's a gut shot. Unfortunate. We still can come back. We have a lot of good top decks like 4 Ancient Strings. So I'm gonna pass priority. They're only at 12 life. They're not gonna draw a card if I use it. So maybe we'll play it a bit better there, but still it's fine. So another Manamorphose. That is the third Manamorphose they cannot really play another. Okay. And 1 blue left. They have 1 card left in hand, and it's not a creature, maybe a land. Take 3. We're going to draw a creature here to be happy. Puzzle is not great, but it's not the end of the world. We can set up a strong turn next turn. We could be blocking with one of the email, that's not a bad idea. They don't have Lava Dart on the side, on the graveyard, which is very important. I will be blocking one of them anyway. We have a lot of mana available as well. So the reason I'm blocking with the Nemo Nexus is I want to keep my life total as high as possible, right? I want to give myself as much time as possible to come back, and we have a lot of land. So not dismember. Probably quite painful. Probably will attack with everything. Gonna animate the Inmouth. I mean, that would I want to block here, here. Here blocks and kills, so I think this maybe forces their hand a bit more. So they block, so we take 2 points of damage. It is member now. Do they have if they okay? What I would do here, if they would cast a spell, I would dismember. But if they're not casting a spell, do I want really? I will not dismember unless they team band stabbed. We're at 9. Still have a good chance to win this game. Just need to find a effect. Like this one. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna play the Hangable Walker for x equals 1. Against 2 plays around Bolt. So I could play for x equals 2. I would play around Bolt. That's I'll play for 1. So I can still block with the Inmost Nexus, or even dismember with the... So it's a 3-3. It's a really good drop deck. We can actually dismember this to... So we could actually dismember the Hangabag in response of a spell. So they will draw a card. 2 cards in hand. So what we can do and that. They don't have lava darts in their side in the graveyard. That's very important to know. We're doing a lot of things with them. Break. Break deals 3 damage to target creature. Prowess, Prowess. We will actively make the top tiers, but we will not get the counters. I may go play around that. So now the choice is, do we want to dismember this? Right? If we can dismember this, then we can make 3 top tiers, and we will get 3 counters over here that then in turn can turn into 5. There will be 3 counters that will be becoming 5 counters, right? So that's quite strong. Also, we can just kill one of those. Here I'm putting, doesn't really matter what you put first. No counters going to the Ozolith, but we get 3 top tiers. Guessing they will attack. Now we'll block everything to 1. Do I want to do that? They have 1 card in hand. I'm gonna block one of them, and most likely they have a bolt or something like this. We're down to 5. We dismember the other guy. Not in Pitland, we can use it to draw. It's not a super bad. Ballista. I'll start attacking them. I'll play Walking Ballista. Now if they bolt this or something, then we have time to actually just kill the Soul Carnage. So yeah, even if they Prowess again, we can still just kill it. So they are lava darting here. Just kill this. Yeah, so we have no cards in hand. We have basically 0 cards in hand either also. So I'm gonna be attacking with this top turn and holding on the emote just in case we want to block. I'm not necessarily gonna play this line just to make believe that we have something in our hand. I mean, we don't really have that many things we have, but this is basically we're on top deck mode, and they drew a very strong card. But if they attack, we can block it with emote. Ah, they have Lava Dart, right? Yeah, I'll force them to use a Lava Dart. So we take 2, down to 3, with 1 bolt away. Another Forest. That's a tense game, eh? I wonder if I could have played. I'm sure I could have played better at some point. Just kill, maybe just killing the Manamorphose. That's a fantastic draw. That's the 4th Manamorphose they draw. Anyway, maybe if I had just killed the what's it called, the Study Whisper straight away, would have been better. So we block. Steering's good. Gavak Walker, the Ozolith. Nothing really. It's a 3/3, right? And we're at 3. Yeah, kept the Ingmouth Nexus, but of course not we dead. We can play the Hangavac, but we cannot sacrifice it. I don't think there is any card we can on any of these cards that win us the game. Only Nurturing Pillar and drawing. So that's what we're gonna do. That's our only chance, actually. And I will not do it. All right, we'll go down to game 3. A bit hard, this game. Anyway, I hope everything made sort of sense. They are playing God Shot, so it makes me not want to play so many Metallic Mimics. Maybe I want to play some more animation modules and some more Scrabble. Just cards that survive God Shot. The rest is fine. Yeah, so I'm not gonna focus too much on sideboarding. I'm gonna focus more on the playstyle. These games. So basically, I will probably go over this game when we're done, and we can try to find where did I make mistakes, so you don't get like bad information from me. I'll say yes here. Okay, this hand is good, but we're lacking an untap source for the second Hardened Scale. So in these cases, this hand is really good. It's just missing like an untap source. I'm gonna start with Llanowar Reborn tapped, and the reason for that is I really want to play Hardened Scales turn 2, and I could play both Hardened Scales turn 2, right? So that's what I'm going to be doing. And this way, turn 3, we have a strong play. It's just if I play Hardened Scales now and I don't draw on top source, then I'm kind of... actually, maybe I wouldn't. No, doesn't make sense. If they play this, I would say no. It also triggers on the opponent. I don't get. So I'm playing one Hardened Scales and the other Hardened Scales. And we have Welding Jar to deal with the break. Really good. Next time we can play Welding Jar and Ballista, make it a 6-6. And go ballistic from there. Shock. They play Sprite Dragon. You can put always no to graph triggers to an opponent, but it's interesting to know that there is a trigger. Okay, so we're gonna play the Welding Jar. We're gonna play the Walking Ballista for x equals 1. It will come in with 3 counters. I'll move the counters. I'll shoot here. Now I'm doing it my turn. Now they're tapped out. There's only one card they could have, which is Gutshot. And we basically cleaned up 2 of their creatures in 1 turn. That's fantastic. That's what you want to be doing in this matchup. That's why Llanowar is such a strong card. They could abrade, but we can Welding Giant response. That's a Manamorphose. Just imagine they had these 2 creatures with a Manamorphose. That would be cool. So yeah, basically what you see there, right? I cast the Ballista, gets 3 counters from the Hardened Scales. It grabs from the Llanowar Reborn, so he gets 1 extra counter. That means 3 extra counters with the Hardened Scales. And yeah, we're now in business, basically. Now they are looking for things to do. I mean, we could even almost go for it next. We draw land, we can actually win. Most likely. What could they have with 1? So they could have Bolt. That's the only thing that could stop us from winning. So I'm gonna play the Ozolith first. That kind of puts the counters to good use, let's say. I'm gonna play the Ravager. That kind of puts a lot of pressure into them, right? I have a 3-3 Ravager and a 3-3 Walking Ballista. A lot of people will be tempted to go all in right now, and I could not blame you, you know. They have 5, but if they have a Bolt specifically, this doesn't work, and it can get a bit awkward with a Braid. So we don't need to have to go for it. So that's a thing you can learn. It's like, I play the Ravager, I play the Ozolith to protect those counters. Those counters are safe with them. Now I'm attacking. It seems like I'm giving them time, but in reality, with Welding Jar and Ozolith and everything, I actually have time. I'm not like in a rush. They played a lot of cards last turn trying to look for a threat. Alright, so what we can do is we can play the Throne of Geth. I'm tapping the Darksteel Citadel because I want to sacrifice it to the Throne of Geth. We have a Bolt here. I'm gonna regenerate the Walking Ballista. Maybe we have triple Bolt. They will destroy this artifact. You know, at this point they're actually dead. Probably don't realize it though. So they're trying to destroy the Wellington Ballista. Response on. What we can do is sacrifice it basically. Now there's 2 triggers, right? There's the trigger of the Ozolith, so the counters of the Ballista will go into the Ozolith, and the trigger on the Arcbound Ravager. So Arcbound Ravager is a 3-3, is a 6-6 right now. Yeah, the Welding Jar goes to waste, but that's okay. Then the Throne of Geth comes in. Then the Throne of Geth can sacrifice. the Darksteel Citadel, and then we can put counters both on the Arcbound Ravager and on the Ozolith. Done. Then here, to get extra counters, you can make Inmoth Nexus a creature, which is what we're going to do right now, and sacrifice it to the Ravager. Now you get 12 counters. Then the Ravager can sacrifice Son of Geth. It's 15 counters, so basically that's already lethal. But imagine they were at 20, or they had gained life somehow. Now we can move the counters from the Ozolith. Yeah, they're conceding. But basically now we move counters from the Ozolith. There will be a 20-20, and then we can eat the Ozolith to make it a 23-23. And that is the game. We won. Yeah, big difference between game 3 and game 2 is that we had Hardened Scales. Hardened Scales is super strong in this matchup, as you can see. And you can see how prioritizing killing their creatures is really good. But somehow in game 2 I did not play really good around it. So let's go watch it right now, and we can see what mistakes we made there, so you can also learn. All right, we are watching this basically game 2 that but actually we lost. And you know, like already looking here, the hand we kept was kind of sketchy. We had a lot of lands, which is something we don't want. We had no interaction. We're Hardened Scales, so I thought we could kind of engineer a kill with Inmoth Nexus. But yeah, not the strongest hand by any means. So that already tells you maybe we should just mulligan the hand. And a lot of the problems that we'll be talking about now, they come down to the mulligan decision that we made. So yeah, they Manamorphose. And they play this guy. He's extremely strong card, but we draw Dismember here, thankfully. And we basically play a second Scales, and we Dismember it, which is a good play. I think this is a good play. You should do this because, for example, you could see game 3, by killing their creatures very early on, we are basically free to kind of win the game. Their cards are very weak if they don't have those creatures. So play 2 lands, and here's where maybe you could say I made a slight mistake. Maybe instead of, they clearly were holding some sort of interaction here. It made more sense just to play the Arcbound Worker, bait them into bolting it, abrading it, whatever, and then move the counters over the Inmoth Nexus as a potential, you know, at that point the Inmoth Nexus would be 3/3 plus 5 would be 60, so it would be a turn 2 turn clock that would be pretty hard for them to deal with. So maybe that was a better play. And here I think it's kind of key. From here things go kind of south. And you can see turn 3, you already have a key play, and that's modern for you, you know, like it's not like standard that sometimes the key play comes turn 5, 6. It's turn 3 comes in. Of course, this play played around ball, but did not play around abrade. And they do play some amount of abrades, 2 or 3. And you know, the damage is not so relevant as the counters in this case. If you imagine that they had played the same abrade to this Arcbound Worker, then we can put the counters over here, 6/6. Or even if we move the counters over the Worker, we basically would have a lethal Inmoth Nexus next turn. Because it would be 8/8, it would be 6 plus, actually it would be almost lethal, like 6 would come 8 counters, it would be basically almost lethal. So no need to move the counters. So yeah, basically we will be forcing them to hold on much more interaction, not playing on their own turn. And here we draw another land, we play the Worker, and we attack with 1 Inmoth Nexus. And here again they get the better of us with the interaction. They bolt the Worker, and they have a God Shot for the... They didn't actually have to pay that mana. They could have just paid. That was 1 life. Yeah. So from here we kind of top deck mode. We have 4 lands and they have 4 lands. But I mean, they have 1 threat in play, and almost everything they draw is very strong at this point. Yeah, I have another threat in play right now. That makes it pretty hard, right? So we draw an Ozolith, not really a threat. Yeah, but you can see like this. What set this up was the idea that I kind of threw away my Ballista. If I had held on my Ballista until they were tapped out with double Scales and Lano were reborn, I could have made the 6/6 Ballista and immediately clean up their house like it happened on game 3, right? So it gets to show that, I mean, I kind of learned a bit on the process, but it comes to show how important are these small decisions, like playing around your opponent's removal. But it's not so important here. We're basically here trying to focus on our own mechanics. And I hope I made a good enough job at that. If I didn't, I'll try to make it even better next time. It's kind of a change of pace for me, you know, I need to focus on it. But I think I explained quite a bit of the interactions that were going on. If there are more interactions here, again, another kind of misplay. So if you play Hangawak for X equals 2, then you get a 4/4 Hangawak. Then, of course, they could abrade it, and it will be a 1/1 Hangawak thanks to Soulscar Mage. But still, if they bolted afterwards, then at least we get some kind of counters on the Ozolith, which didn't happen. Also, we probably should have saved this last Inmoth Nexus just for the possibility to draw a Ravager. Like basically drawing a Ravager at any time was a win in here. So I should have played for that, you know. Like, and the reason, okay, I'm gonna explain this also. Why drawing a Ravager in this situation where they have no cards maybe to play against you is a win. You play a Ravager, you sacrifice the Darksteel Citadel, then it's a 6/6 Ravager. Then you animate the Inmoth Nexus, move the counters over the Inmoth, that will be, and will go like 8 counters to it, and then the 6 counters of the Ravager will go onto the Ozolith. At the end, you can move to the Inmoth Nexus for a 16/16 Inmoth, basically. So, quite important to hold on to this last Inmoth Nexus, because there will be this chance to do that on Ravager, and we're also playing Ancient Sync, so it's easier to find. I did not do that though. Yeah, in this case, yeah, play this member. Yeah, one life card left in hand, which is a bit annoying. Kill the Ballista. Actually, if you look at it right here, another misplay. You know, lots of misplays in this game. If I had just hold on, like I just hold on. I hold on with my 2 flyers. I'm just in blocking. I hope I wait to be having a 4/4 walking Ballista. Then they can kill this much easier, right? So, and maybe the problem though is I would die the turn after because they have Lavadar, so they could Lavadar both of these and then bolt me. So sometimes. Okay, so they had Flame Slash and Lavadar. That wouldn't mean just enough to kill me actually. So I was that if I didn't play the Ballista, which, you know, maybe I wasn't. So, and from here, you know, just the top they were, and then that's so you just win. But yeah, in the last game, you could see that we actually did play much better our cards, because we were able to get rid of their board with our cards. And basically, you know, it's very important to understand 3 interactions. Okay, let's recap. 3 interactions are important. Throne of Death can proliferate anything. It can proliferate your lands, it can proliferate your creatures, it can proliferate poison counters, planeswalker counters, everything. Of course, you shouldn't proliferate your opponent's planeswalkers, but it can also proliferate their ether vials and everything. Second one, Diana Reborn generates that extra counter, so it's always advisable to play it first when you have nothing else to do. So you have this option to play this extra counter, and you can see it multiplies with Hardened Scales. So you have a 3/3 Ballista, you put an extra counter to it, it will be a 6/6 Ballista, which is really strong with 2 Hardened Scales, of course. And then finally, with keeping or mulliganing hands, it's important to kind of have a plan with those hands and think about what are your first turns going to look like. And I would personally mulligan hands that don't have anything to do turn 1, turn 2. If you have a hand like that, which is very weird in our deck, which is basically all turn 1 and turn 2 plays, it's a too slow a hand. If you have like 2 Scrapyard Recombiners, a Metallic Mimic, and 4 lands or some, a Welding Jar and 3 lands, mulligan the hand is just not going to do enough. Always, unless you're very, especially on the draw, I would almost always mulligan hands that don't have a 1-drop. You need a 1-drop. So you have like some of the strongest 1-drops in the game with Ozolith, Animation Module, and Hardened Scales. And this, especially Hardened Scales and Ozolith, you're able to play in turn 1. It sets a different tone from the game. You know, basically from that point on, everything that you do will generate double the value. But if you just don't have a turn 1 play and your first play is a turn 2 1/1 walking Ballista, that's often not good enough. It could be just good enough, but in general, if you want some kind of general rules, that would be my mulligan rules. Make sure you have enough mana. This deck needs at least 3 lands, but 2 lands in your initial hand is fine. 1 land is risky. Only keep them on the draw. And then have at least a turn 1 play and have some way to find a threat. And a threat could be Walking Ballista, Ravager, Hangable Walker, even Scrapyard Recombiner, but you need to have a threat by turn 3 out, or by turn 2, turn 3 out, or you could have a hard time. So that's basically it. Sideboarding I'm not going to talk so much about, but just make sure that you're thinking a bit about your opponent's strength. So I hope this is useful for like newer players and not so new players, you know, for people like that want to get better at the hardened skills, about the basics. I mean, I think I put it in another video, but basically if you master the basics, you will master winning, because you will always know how your interactions work better than your opponent. Even high level players, they don't understand how hardened skills works as a whole, so they are miscalculating all the time how much damage you have on board. You can see that in a lot of my videos where people just are dead on board and don't realize it. So the better you become at your own cards, you know, like it's really will make you win much more. So if you understand this half, watch these videos and you will learn much more, and you will be able to just win much more. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like the video, please let me know in the comments. If this was useful, let me know in the comments, and I will see you for the next one.